Paper 2, question 6 onwards. Make R the subject of the following formula. So I need to rearrange this formula in a way that I will have R equal to something. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the D away from the R, and I will have f squared plus 4 subtract D. Next thing I need to remove is the 3. In order to do that, I'm going to divide by 3, and I need to divide the entire right hand side by 3 in order to be left with R on its own. Solve the inequality. Inequalities work in exactly the same way as equations and how we solve them, but make sure we keep the inequality sign in between as opposed to an equals. First of all, expand the bracket. 5t minus 10 is greater than 3t plus 14. I am going to move the 3t to the left hand side and the minus 10 to the right hand side. I will have 5t subtract 3t is bigger than 14 plus 10. 2t is bigger than 24, so t must be greater than 24 divided by 2, so t is greater than 12. Be sure to keep the inequality sign all the way through, because if you change it to an equals you will lose a mark. Solve the following equation. Slightly awkward question this, in that it's already been factorised for us, which means we can go straight to the point where we would say either x equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. In this case we already have what the x value is worth. In this case we just need to take the 4 over to become minus 4, and we have our two solutions. Ruth and Tony share £1,491 in the ratio 2 to 5. Calculate each what they receive. So there are 7 parts in total that are worth 1,491. To find out what one part is worth, I'm going to divide 1,491 by 7. So one part is worth 213. Ruth receives 2 parts, so I'm going to times that by 2 to find Ruth has £426, and Tony receives 5 parts, so 213 times 5 will give me 1,065. To check that you are correct, if you add these two numbers together, you should be left with the original amount. Compound interest. The formula for compound interest is new amount of money is equal to the multiplier times by the original amount of money. So we are looking for the new amount of money. The multiplier is what percentage increase we are finding. So they have the full 100% of their money at the beginning. They are then given an extra 4%, so they will have 104% of their original starting money. Now in this formula we need decimals, so I'm going to turn 104% into the decimal 1.04. That is the multiplier, so we have 1.04 times by the original amount. That is £6,000. Now, because we are talking about a period of more than 1 year, to account for that in the formula, we need to raise the multiplier to the power of how many years that we're being invested by. 1.04 to the power of 3, and then we are going to times that by 6,000. We find that the answer is £6,749, 118 pence even. Now this is not the final answer. This is how much money they have left. The question is only asking for the actual interest. So to find the interest, we are going to take the amount of money they have at the end, and from that we are going to subtract the 6,000 they started with. So the actual interest over the 3 years is £749, 18 pence. Part C. The cost of a meal for a group of people includes an 8% service charge of £203 and 4 pence. Calculate the cost of the meal before the service charge was added. This, we are going to use the same formula as we did for the compound interest. New amount equals multiplier times by the original amount. The difference in this case is that we know the new amount. The £203 and 4 is the new amount. That is how much they paid. We are trying to work out what the original amount of the cost of the meal was before the service charge was included. So the 8% service charge means the meal was 100% of their money. When they add on, they get 108%. Again, as a decimal, this means that the multiplier was 1.08 times by the original amount that the food would cost. Now to find the original amount, this 1.08 is going to have to come across here and divide. So we will have 203.04 divided by 1.08, which will give us the original amount of the meal. 203.04 divided by 1.08 and that tells us that the original cost of the meal was £188. Part D. Two boxes are stacked one on top of each other. The height of one box is 57 centimetres, correct to the nearest centimetre. As soon as you see any words such as correct to the nearest centimetre, measured accurately to, that indicates that this is going to be a bounds of measurements question. So 57 centimetres to the nearest centimetre means it could be as large as 57.5 centimetres or as small as 56.5 centimetres. Height of the other box is 38, again measured correct to the nearest centimetre, so it could be as much as 38.5 centimetres or as little as 37.5 centimetres. Find the least height and the greatest height of the boxes when stacked one on top of the other. So if they are stacked on top, to find the least and greatest height, we're going to add together the possible options for the boxes. If I want the least, I'm going to assume both boxes are as short as possible. So that will be 56.5 plus 37.5. The least height will be 94, and the greatest height will be 57.5 plus 38.5, and I will get that the greatest height of the box is 96 centimetres. Question 8. The floor of the tent can be thought of as a rectangle. So the floor of the tent is a rectangle. The length of the tent is twice as long as the width. The tent has a ground area of 5.12 metres squared, so we know that the area of this is 5.12. The length is twice as long as the width. If we assume the width to be x, that tells us the length must be 2x. Now, calculate the length and width. We need to use the area of a rectangle. The area of a rectangle is length times width, so that becomes 2x times x. So we know that the area of the rectangle is 2x squared. We've been told that that is equal to 5.12. If we divide by 2, we find out that x squared will be equal to 2.56. If I want to know x on its own, I need to square root 2.56, which I find x is equal to 1.6. Haven't quite finished our question at this point. We need to know the length and width. Well, we stated originally that the length was 2x and the width was x, so therefore the width is 1.6 metres and the length is 2 times that, which is 3.2 metres. Part B. The bag can be thought of as a cylinder. When packed with the tent, the diameter of the bag is 28 centimetres and the length is 44. So the length is 44 centimetres and the diameter is 28 centimetres. The formula for the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared, which is the area of the top, times by the length that the cylinder takes. Now, if the radius is what we need and we know the diameter is 28, the radius is going to be half of that. So it is pi times 14 squared times by the length, which is 44. That gives us the answer 27,093.095 centimetres cubed, because volume is measured in centimetres cubed. They've asked for in litres. You need to know that 1,000 centimetres cubed is 1 litre. So we are going to divide this number by 1,000 to work out that in litres this is 27.09 litres. Part C. Kim and Terry share one tent and stay for 2 nights. They changed pounds into euros for an exchange rate of 1.15 euros to the pound. Calculate the cost in pounds of their 2-night stay. So if we calculate the cost of their 2-night stay, obviously in euros first, we can then convert it back. So there were 2 people at 9.2 euros each. So that is 2 times 9.2. So it is 18.4 euros for 1 night. They are staying for 2 nights, so we are going to double that to get 36.8. So 2 nights is 36.8 euros. We also have to charge them for the tent plot, and as these charges are per night, there needs to be 2 nights worth of that charge. So we get 2 lots of the charge, which is 1.38 euros. So we are going to add together the cost of their 2 nights and their charge, and we will get that in euros they paid 38.18. That's in euros. We have been asked to find out how much they paid in pound. So every pound is worth 1.15 euros. So if I want to work out how many pounds they have paid, if I was going from pounds to euros, I would be multiplying by 1.15. I am going in the opposite direction, so I need to divide. So it's 38.18 divided by 1.15, which tells me that in pounds they spent £33.20 on their stay.